After Battlefield 1 hit all new heights with sales, player numbers and general popularity, EA DICE had the perfect platform to launch a hit World War II Battlefield game, but according to several sources I've compiled since the launch of the game, this has just not been the case. Low pre-order numbers, low sales of physical copies, and now a low player count has really brought a lot of things into question surrounding the direction Battlefield is going in, and although there is still a lot of fun to be had in BF5, if you can't sell the game or even retain any players, there is clearly a major issue at hand. In this video I'm going to take a bit of a look at what's happened so far from the inception of Battlefield 5 all the way up to the present day. We'll take a look at what DICE have done wrong, what DICE could possibly do to improve this, and whether there is actually any hope for Battlefield 5 turning a corner and becoming a popular Battlefield title. Let's take a trip back through time to May 23rd, 2018. The Battlefield 5 official reveal trailer. What an absolute disaster. Battlefield 1 had arguably the best reveal trailer in the history of the franchise, whilst Battlefield 5 had one of the worst trailers I've ever seen for a video game. Disjointed, confusing, and clearly interested in only showcasing the potential microtransactions and gimmicky features, the trailer received a massive backlash that placed BF1 on the back foot from the get-go. That being said, EA DICE had the tools at their disposal to fix this, and the next steps they took would be crucial. But that was the issue. Nothing happened. The marketing campaign for Battlefield 5 was a complete mess, with nothing of any value appearing for months, and although we got access to the alpha and the beta, it was an underwhelming experience from start to finish. The entire process was disjointed and disappointing. Not what I had hoped for at all. That being said, it was a Battlefield game. There was always the chance it would be turned around. Battlefield 4 had one of the worst launches in gaming history, yet after a year or so, maybe 6 months into the game's life, things were already starting to turn towards a positive experience, and we all know how that ended up. Hope was not lost for BF5. Moving on to August 2018, we had another turning point with Battlefield 5, and this one was again for the worse. News articles started appearing questioning the success of Battlefield 5's pre-orders, with several articles, such as the ones you can see on screen right now, claiming Battlefield 5 was lagging behind Call of Duty Black Ops by nearly 85%. This also coincided with the departure of EA's chief design officer Patrick Soderlund, a man that was on a massive salary in excess of $35 million a year, that's reported, and also a man that decided to insult the Battlefield community by saying, "Accept it or don't buy the game," and that these people are uneducated. A ridiculous move that had more impact than he may have anticipated at the time. Soderlund's attempt to galvanise a movement towards accepting pointless diversity over a shred of historical accuracy did nothing but cause a huge void in the community and disrupt any positive marketing DICE had invested in beforehand. Focusing more on Battlefield 5's pre-orders, you have to consider the fact that EA also dropped back the release of BF5 from the initial October 19th release date in order to do a couple of things. Firstly, they wanted to get the game finished in time, and secondly, they wanted to avoid competing with Call of Duty Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Think back to Battlefield 1 and the release date for that game. It wouldn't have struggled in any way against those two other games, and the timescale for creating the game was clearly well planned and sufficient enough to bring a polished game to the market. Battlefield 1 was a juggernaut, whilst Battlefield 5 was definitely not. It was half finished on release, and that's another issue we'll get into later. Now we move forward to November 2018. The game has released, and although a few people really enjoy it, a large majority feel underwhelmed. Yes, it was a Battlefield game, and you could play it, there's fun to be had, etc, etc, but it just wasn't exactly what we were all expecting. More news appears surrounding the sales of Battlefield 5, stating that physical sales are down more than 50% on Battlefield 1. These numbers have to be taken with a pinch of salt, as EA have been very secretive with sales numbers and player counts, and physical sales don't account for everything. We live in a world whereby digital game sales are rising, however it was very worrying to see how a World War II Battlefield game could be potentially struggling against a previous Battlefield 1 title. The game release was terrible in my opinion, with a wide variety of possible ways to play the game early. This was very confusing. Pre-order bonuses, deluxe editions, unclear Origin Access, and Origin Access Premier release dates. the entire thing was a bit of a shambles. Add into that the fact that the game was clearly not finished and you've got another Battlefield 4 scenario, a game that just needed more time to be developed. To compound this concern, Battlefield 5 went on sale over Black Friday, merely a few weeks after its release, with massive savings available. A nice gesture from EA, you might think. Well, I believe it was insulting to those people that paid full price for the game, and clearly a last gasp attempt to salvage some sales in the first few weeks of the game's release, a time where whatever marketing campaigns had been completed are still fresh in the minds of the consumers. Now on to the more pressing issue of the game itself. Battlefield 5 had focused on the wrong things in my opinion, and only after the last few patches have we started to see what the game should have been in the first place. Diversity, cosmetics and immersion, these are things that should have been considered after the game was in a good place. The game released with an incredible bug list, and I even went to the extent of listing 200 of them in a video a few weeks ago, and let me tell you, I could have gone way past the 200 mark without breaking a sweat. Battlefield 5 needed more time before releasing, and I think everyone can agree on that point. This causes players to put the game down after a few weeks of playtime, and that is why, according to some sources, the live player count on Battlefield 5 is a lot lower than it potentially should be. There have also been other slip-ups from the developers along the way, such as the TTK 2.0 debacle. Whether you agreed with it or not, it was handled very poorly. The RSP issues, again, handled very poorly, and of course a personal favourite of mine, the fact that players that were promised 20 unique items with the Deluxe Edition will only in fact receive 3 or 4, with DICE splitting those into little sections. Pretty deplorable stuff, combined with the fact that company coins were broken for months as well. My personal gripes revolve around the ones I just mentioned, also visibility issues, incredibly poor UI and UX design, cheaters, mediocre vehicle gameplay, and frankly boring gameplay overall compared to previous Battlefield titles. I've gone into more detail with these issues in previous videos, but if a game cannot do the basics right, especially after doing them so well in Battlefield 3, 4 and 1, why on earth should I sit here and endure it? I'll just stop playing and find another game to play instead, and in all honesty, I thought I'd play a lot more Battlefield 5 than I had, and as a content creator, I really haven't played very much of it at all. I've moved on to different games that are more exciting. This is the mindset of a lot of Battlefield players in my opinion, and it is almost certainly responsible for the downward trend in the player count. One Redditor decided to actually count the number of players he saw live on PC a few weeks ago, and came back with a peak number of 93,000. However accurate this is, I'm not too sure, but it's still interesting to take a look at. This will have undoubtedly dropped since Christmas, which is when he did the count, but peak player numbers, let's just say, are around 90,000. You then take a look at Battlefield 1, and at the same time, when it was released, around 150,000 players were playing. Again, these aren't official figures, but it does give you some insight into Battlefield 5 and how it might be performing on PC. So what can be done to turn this all around? Personally, I think the player numbers of the main multiplayer section of Battlefield 5 are what they are, and not much can be done to change that. Maybe DICE will bring out a major content update with the Pacific Theatre, and if done correctly, with a real focus on historical accuracy and gameplay fixes, it could be a huge success, and trust me, the players would come flooding back in. Everyone is so ready for a Battlefield 5 or a Battlefield World War II game that delivers on the promises. Will that happen? I'm dubious. In all honesty, I doubt it. The next big chance for success, and in my opinion the most likely, is the Battle Royale mode. Whether you love Battle Royale or hate it, it could definitely be good for the franchise and for Battlefield 5 in particular. If this is done correctly and Criterion Games get things spot on, Firestorm, which is a bit of a silly name for a Battle Royale in my opinion, could be a hit. Battle Royale is still a huge thing in the gaming world, with Twitch and YouTube dominated by its content and all the major content creators focusing on it. Battlefield has a chance to be part of that, but if the mode has an underwhelming release, then that's it, game over. Not releasing it as a separate game or even making it free to play could also be a mistake, but I think both options have their positives and negatives. We'll just have to wait and see. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of Battlefield 5? The low sales numbers and the potentially low player count, does it bother you? Do you consider Battlefield 5 a failure, or are you holding out on your verdict until Firestorm releases and we see more content ranging from March to the end of 2019. I think Battlefield 5 has significantly underperformed up until now, but I do believe it can be salvaged. Thanks for watching, leave your comments down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.